On a summer day in 2017, a young woman full of dreams and ambitions set out for the United States with faith in a bright future ahead. But just months later, she vanished without a trace, leaving behind unanswered questions and a devastated family. She was Zhang Yingying, a brilliant student from Peking University. Yingying was a talented young woman with unwavering confidence in herself, but her life ended in unimaginable tragedy. A life full of promise was stolen by the cruelty of someone no one suspected. So what happened in Yingying's final hours? What horrors did this ambitious young woman face, and why did the perpetrator choose her as his victim? Let's explore today's case with crime documentary files. Zhang Yingying was born in 1990 in Jianyang District, Nanping City, Fujian Province, an area familiar with working-class families struggling to make ends meet. Her family circumstances were difficult from an early age, marked by significant financial hardship. Her father, Zhang Ronggao, spent his entire life working hard at blue-collar jobs. As a security guard, temporary laborer, and to earn extra money for the family, he also worked as a long-haul truck driver. This exhausting work provided the primary, indeed the only, source of income for the Zhang family. Her mother, Ye Li Feng, came from a rural background with limited education and literacy. Her health was also consistently poor and fragile. Therefore, aside from occasionally taking on odd jobs to help cover household expenses, most of her time was spent at home managing domestic duties and caring for their two children. Besides Yingying, the family had a younger son, 3 years her junior, but unfortunately, he had to drop out of school right after completing junior high school, unable to continue his education like his sister. There's a saying, children from poor families mature early, and Yingying was living proof of this adage. From a very young age, when many other children were still carefree and playing, Yingying already understood deeply the many hardships and deprivations her family faced. She recognized profoundly that if she wanted to change her destiny and escape the cycle of poverty, the only path was through education. Only knowledge could help her rise above her circumstances. Therefore, throughout the years before entering high school, Yingying's life revolved around just 3 things: eating, sleeping, and studying. Beyond the necessary time for meals and rest, she devoted every remaining moment to her books. And remarkably, despite having absolutely no academic or financial support from her family, no tutors, no extra classes, none of the advantages other students had, Yingying's academic performance consistently ranked at the top of her class, always among the school's most outstanding students. In the college entrance examination, Yingying achieved a remarkable feat by scoring 670 points, an impressive score that allowed her to gain admission to the environmental science program at Sun Yat-sen University, one of the nation's most prestigious universities. She became the first college student in the entire Zhang family lineage, the pride of her entire clan. From that point forward, her academic trajectory continued its upward climb. Even after entering university, she was able to rely entirely on scholarships earned through her excellent performance, combined with part-time work, to completely cover her tuition and living expenses. After graduating from Sun Yat-sen University in 2013, Yingying continued to reach higher by gaining admission to the graduate program at Peking University. There, she was not only the lead singer in a band, but also excelled in her academic field. With her intelligence and diligence, she easily met all academic requirements. Notably, Yingying was able to support herself financially and even help support her family during her graduate studies. During her years at Peking University, Yingying met Hou Xiaolin, an equally outstanding classmate. The two quickly made deep impressions on each other, not only because they shared similar ambitions, but also because they had common aspirations and dreams. By 2016, after years of dedicated research, Yingying successfully completed her master's program and officially graduated. That same year, thanks to her capabilities and impressive academic achievements, she was hired to work at the Institute of Botany under the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing. Regarding her future, Yingying always had a very clear and specific plan. She would continue her relentless efforts in study and scientific research, accumulating experience and knowledge so that in the not-too-distant future, she could seize the opportunity to find a stable teaching position at a university, thereby continuing her research passion while passing on knowledge to the younger generation of students. Time passed quickly. Less than a year after starting work at the Institute in early 2017, a valuable opportunity came to Yingying. She received an invitation to participate in an academic exchange program at the University of Illinois in the United States on April 24th. After a rather rushed and hurried preparation period for this long journey, Yingying officially departed for the United States. Her family, especially her parents, were genuinely anxious about their daughter traveling alone to a distant country halfway around the world. The main reason for their concern was that the family's circumstances still hadn't improved much and remained financially difficult. Due to these limited financial conditions, the amount of money the family could provide and send with Yingying to America was truly modest, barely enough to cover only the most basic initial needs. However, alongside these worries, her father and mother also felt immensely happy and proud that their daughter had grown into such a capable young woman. Regardless of what others said or thought, regardless of how difficult circumstances became, Yingying always maintained her determination, constantly pushing and encouraging herself to move forward. What made them even more proud was that when she and her boyfriend Hao Xiaolin both graduated from their master's programs, the two had excellently secured the first and second positions in their entire major. More than just being an excellent couple of students, they had also mapped out beautiful plans for their shared future. They had agreed together that after 6 months in the United States, they would officially hold their wedding ceremony. According to the arranged schedule, Yingying would conduct an academic research project expected to last a full year at the Champaign campus of the University of Illinois. Time passed quickly, and by June 2017, Yingying had spent 2 months living and working on the American University campus. Throughout this period, she had devoted herself wholeheartedly, pouring all her passion and energy into her research work, while also being very proactive in expanding her social network by making new friends with other international students and researchers. On June 9th, Yingying's schedule was particularly packed and busy. At 8:30 a.m., following her usual routine and daily work plan, she was at the laboratory as usual to begin research work with other members of her team. While working, she proactively informed her teammates that in the afternoon, specifically at 2 p.m., she had an important appointment with a real estate agent to view and inquire about a rental property, and she expected to return to the laboratory around 4 p.m. to continue her research work. The reason Yingying had to spend time looking for a new place was that the cost of living in the United States was truly too high and exceeded her financial capacity. After thorough research, Yingying realized that if she was willing to rent a house in areas slightly farther from the center, places that might require longer commutes to school, she could save about $300 per month compared to her current apartment. For a young woman like Yingying, who came from a financially struggling family and always had to manage all her living expenses with her own hands, $300 per month was truly not a small amount. It was a significant saving that could help ease her financial burden and provide extra money to send home to support her family. After finishing lunch around midday, Yingying gathered her necessary belongings and boarded the first bus of her journey, preparing to travel to the scheduled location to view the rental property. Because the viewing location was in an area quite far from the school campus, she would need to transfer between 2 different buses to reach the meeting place with the real estate agent at exactly 1:39 p.m. While en route, Yingying proactively sent a text message to the agent to politely inform him that she might arrive about 10 minutes late from the original 2 p.m. appointment time, perhaps because the commute was taking longer than expected. Fortunately, the real estate agent replied that it was fine. He could wait a bit longer. However, time continued to pass minute by minute until 2:40 p.m., more than 40 minutes past the original appointment time and over half an hour after Yingying sent her message. The agent still hadn't seen any sign of Yingying appearing at the meeting location. He tried multiple times to call and text her, but all attempts received no response whatsoever from her end. Finally, after waiting for an extended period with no news, the agent had no choice but to leave disappointed. Not only the agent, But throughout that entire afternoon, many people, including colleagues from the research group, international friends she had recently met, and those who needed to contact her for work, several people continuously tried to reach Yingying by phone and text, but all attempts went unanswered. More worryingly, Yingying never returned to the university laboratory to continue her research work as she had told everyone that morning, nor did she return to the apartment where she was living. She seemed to have vanished without a trace. When the time reached past 7 p.m. and darkness had fallen, one member of the research group began to feel extremely worried and anxious. He knew very well that Yingying was an extremely hard-working and responsible person, always keeping her promises and being punctual. This abnormal situation of lost contact had never happened before in all the time they had worked together. With a premonition that something was not right, not normal, this colleague decided to call the emergency number to report this suspicious disappearance to the police. After receiving the report and conducting a preliminary understanding of the situation, local police quickly arrived. Around 9 p.m. that same day, they went directly to the dormitory, the apartment where Yingying was living, to officially launch the initial investigation. When police officers approached the apartment, they noticed that the lights inside the room were completely off. All windows were tightly closed from the inside, and most importantly, there were no signs whatsoever that anyone had broken into the apartment illegally or committed any destructive acts from outside. After being granted permission and entering inside the apartment for inspection, police found Yingying's important identity documents such as her passport and student ID, along with some cash still intact in the room. Although they couldn't confirm with 100% certainty, based on the important belongings and property that Yingying had left in the apartment, especially her passport and money, police could deduce that she had absolutely no intention of going far away or leaving the city for an extended period. However, in this initial phase, the police force wasn't really too worried or taking the matter very seriously. Their attitude was still quite casual. The main reason was that that day, June 9th, happened to be a Friday. According to their experience and understanding of American college student culture, on Friday nights, it was extremely common and normal for students to attend parties, gather with friends, go out for entertainment until late at night, and while having fun, forget about their phones or not be reachable for several hours, even overnight in the university environment. Therefore, they believed that perhaps Yingying was just somewhere having fun and would return on her own later. But the situation changed as time continued to pass. By noon the next day, Saturday, June 10th, since the last time anyone had been able to successfully contact Yingying, a full 24 hours had passed with still no news about her. This truly began to make everyone around her feel extremely worried, because everyone who knew Yingying understood that she was a person with a very thoughtful, careful, responsible nature and was extremely reliable in all matters, always keeping her word and notifying in advance if there were any changes to plans. With such a character, her complete disappearance without any news for an entire day and night was fundamentally something that absolutely could not happen under normal circumstances. Because of this growing concern, the supervising professor along with the research group contacted and reported to the police once again, this time with a much more serious and urgent attitude. Only at this point, when receiving the second report accompanied by more detailed information about Yingying's character and habits, did the police force truly begin to pay attention to the case, changing their attitude from indifferent to serious, and officially determining that Yingying's mysterious disappearance was not a case of a student forgetting to contact while out having fun, but a real missing person case that needed to be thoroughly investigated. Fortunately, throughout the entire University of Illinois campus and surrounding areas, the school had installed a modern surveillance camera system with large numbers and high resolution, covering most public areas. This brought tremendous convenience to the police investigation work. Thanks to this comprehensive camera system, investigators didn't take much time to quickly retrieve and reconstruct the detailed movement trajectory of Yingying in her final moments before she disappeared. Specifically, around 1:30 p.m. on June 9th, surveillance cameras on the bus recorded images of Yingying boarding the campus bus from her apartment. At that time, there weren't many passengers. Everything was normal and nothing unusual. Yingying sat quietly with a relaxed expression like any other passenger. After getting off the first bus at the transfer stop, Yingying needed to cross the street to reach the opposite stop where she would catch the second bus. However, she arrived just a few short seconds late, perhaps only 5 or 10 seconds, which caused her to miss the bus. Fixed surveillance cameras at the bus stop fully captured this scene. Yingying was running quickly toward the departing bus, continuously waving her hands urgently, trying to attract the driver's attention. But unfortunately, despite her best efforts, in the end, she still couldn't make it, and the bus left the stop and continued its route without any awareness of her presence. After that, another camera continued to record images of Yingying. The video showed she had stopped on the side of the road, waiting near the bus stop area, apparently planning her next route, perhaps checking her phone to view the bus schedule, or simply waiting for the next bus to arrive. At precisely this moment, something completely unexpected happened. A dark-colored car, appearing to be black or dark blue, suddenly appeared and slowly stopped right next to where Yingying was standing. The surveillance system clearly captured the entire sequence of events that followed. The driver, who appeared to be a male, rolled down the car window and began talking to Yingying. This conversation lasted about 1 minute, after which, surprisingly, Yingying opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat next to the driver. Just seconds after she got in the car and closed the door, the dark-colored vehicle quickly left the scene and disappeared from the camera's view. Immediately, a series of important questions arose in the investigators' minds. Did Yingying know the man driving this car beforehand? Was this a taxi that she had called for transportation? Or was it simply a complete stranger who happened to pass by and proactively offered to help Yingying? To find answers, police spent hours continuously reviewing a massive amount of video footage from surveillance cameras at many different locations around the area. And then, with extremely tense and worried feelings, they discovered a terrifying truth. After the moment Yingying got into that dark-colored car, she never appeared again on any other surveillance camera, as if she had completely vanished from this world. Meanwhile, those who knew Yingying, especially her supervising professor and members of the research group, all felt extremely worried and anxious. They understood clearly that Yingying was an extremely hard-working and dedicated person, always treating everyone around her with sincerity and kindness, and especially she would never leave her phone silent without answering when someone called, unless there was a truly serious reason. Not just waiting for police action, these people took matters into their own hands. They printed a large number of missing person flyers, complete with Yingying's photo and contact information, then posted them everywhere on campus, from bulletin boards, utility poles, cafeteria walls, to the library and classroom buildings. Fortunately, these efforts yielded an important lead. A student also studying at the University of Illinois named Emily, after seeing the missing person notice with Yingying's photo, immediately contacted the police. Emily provided an extremely important detail. On the very day Yingying disappeared, June 9th, she had also encountered a very similar situation. Specifically, a white male had been driving a dark-colored car almost identical to the one in the surveillance footage, stopped right next to her when she was waiting at a bus stop, and this man had started talking to her in what appeared to be exactly the same manner as captured on camera with Yingying. Emily recounted to police the entire detailed sequence of events she had experienced. According to Emily's account, at that time, she was standing alone waiting for the bus on the side of the road when suddenly the man driving the dark-colored car slowly pulled up right in front of her. This man opened the conversation with what sounded like a very legitimate and trustworthy introduction. He identified himself as a plainclothes police officer, that is, a police officer not in uniform, currently conducting some sort of investigation in the nearby area, and he politely asked if he could ask Emily a few questions. Initially, not sensing anything suspicious, Emily responded casually that yes, she was willing to answer. Next, to prove his identity, the man pulled out from inside the car and showed Emily what was supposed to be a police badge. However, Emily paid careful attention to the badge and noticed something was wrong. The badge looked very flimsy. The material appeared to be of poor quality, and overall it looked more like a cheap toy than an official police badge. This feeling of unease activated Emily's vigilance toward the man. After asking a few general questions, the man invited Emily to get into his car, perhaps with the pretext of continuing the conversation or taking her somewhere. But this time, with her sharpness and caution, Emily firmly refused that offer without any hesitation. Seeing that Emily wouldn't agree to get in the car, the man didn't show any annoyance but continued speaking in a calm manner, saying that if she saw any suspicious or unusual situations around the area, be sure to remember to call the police. After saying that, he drove away as if nothing had happened. The important point that Emily emphasized to police was this scene had occurred exactly 4 hours before Yingying disappeared. That is, around 10 a.m. on the same day, June 9th. With this information, everything became much clearer to the investigators. This was clearly not just a random coincidence. Yingying's mysterious disappearance had a direct and extremely strong connection to this mysterious man driving the dark-colored car. He had used the same tactic, impersonating a police officer, to approach potential victims. And fortunately, Emily had escaped danger thanks to her vigilance. But Yingying, an international student who may not have been familiar with such dangerous situations, was not so fortunate. The investigators spent hours reviewing surveillance footage from many different angles and locations on campus. Through this meticulous analysis process, they noticed an extremely important and suspicious detail. Before stopping to talk to Yingying, that dark-colored car had been wandering and moving around the campus for quite a long time, as if searching for a target. More specifically, the cameras had captured scenes of the car initially driving in the completely opposite direction, but then, apparently after spotting Yingying standing alone by the road, the driver deliberately turned the car around, drove back in the opposite direction from before, and finally stopped right next to where Yingying was waiting. This behavior showed that this was not a chance or random encounter, but clearly a purposeful and planned action. Although the resolution of the video footage was not high enough to clearly and accurately confirm the appearance and specific facial features of the man driving the car, fortunately, police image analysis experts were able to determine the exact car model and style. It was a black Saturn Astra. This turned out to be an extremely valuable clue, because this car model was extremely rare in the market. The Astra model hadn't sold many vehicles before the Saturn brand officially shut down completely in 2010. Because of this rarity, in the Champaign County area, where the University of Illinois is located, the number of officially registered Saturn Astras was exactly 18 vehicles in total. And among those 18 vehicles, nearly half were immediately excluded from the suspect list because they were different colors from the car in the video, such as silver, white, or light blue. At this point, with these important analytical advances, the investigation had been narrowed down and locked into an extremely small and specific scope. Only about 10 black Saturn Astras in all of Champaign County needed to be checked. And in the list of black Saturn Astra owners in Champaign County, there was a name that appeared. Brent Allen Christensen, a 28-year-old man, was one of the owners of this rare car model. On the third day after the crime occurred, June 12th, police officially went to meet Christensen at his home for interrogation. They asked him on June 9th, during the time Yingying disappeared, who was driving his car and where did it go. Christensen replied that the car wasn't loaned to anyone, but appeared quite vague when asked to recall details, only saying that perhaps most of the time he was at home playing games on his computer, and possibly at times went out to look for work. Through verification, police discovered Christensen had quite an impressive background. He had always lived in Champaign County, was an alumnus of the University of Illinois, the same school as the victim, had a master's degree in physics, had studied for a doctorate for some time, and was currently working as a teaching assistant at the school. Regarding his personal life, Christensen was married to a very beautiful woman who was his high school classmate. However, their marital relationship wasn't very good. Although they hadn't divorced and were still living together, in reality, the two basically lived separate lives, each person having their own life. An important detail was that on the day Yingying disappeared, Christensen's wife happened to not be in Champaign County, unable to provide an alibi for him. However, after consideration, police decided to temporarily remove Christensen from the main suspect list for the following reasons: high education level, stable local resident, and especially a completely clean judicial record with no criminal history. With this initial assessment, police shifted focus to investigating other Black Saturn Astra owners. During this time, after learning of their daughter's disappearance, Yingying's father and boyfriend hurriedly flew to the United States. The father still tried to hold on to a glimmer of hope that perhaps his daughter was just being held for ransom. In the desperate state of mind of a father, he publicly stated to the media, as long as the person who took his daughter could return her safely, he guaranteed he would not pursue any responsibility from the other party, would not report to police, would not file lawsuits. He only wanted his daughter to live. Not just the family, the entire student and faculty community at the University of Illinois, and local residents were also extremely worried. The school and community organized multiple group prayer sessions for Yingying, hoping she could return safely. To encourage people to provide information, American police offered a reward for anyone with useful leads. Initially, the announced reward was $10,000, but just a few days later, as the case became increasingly serious with no progress, the reward was increased to $40,000, a significant amount. Additionally, the University of Illinois officially launched a fundraising campaign in the community to cover all expenses for the Zhang family during their time in the United States. Meanwhile, police were achieving important breakthrough progress. After investigating all the Black Saturn Astra owners on the list, investigators found that most of these people didn't seem like suspects, many having clear alibis showing they weren't present at the scene when the incident occurred. However, police decided to go back and review even more carefully the video footage from surveillance cameras capturing the mysterious car's movement trajectory. And in this careful review, they discovered two small but extremely crucial details that had been previously overlooked. First, the car that picked up Yingying that day had a sunroof installed in the roof section. Second, the wheel rim of the front right tire had a small defect, as if it had been damaged in a collision. On June 12th, police officers took detailed photographs of all the remaining Saturn Astras on the list in Champaign County to compare with images from surveillance cameras. When carefully examining the photos, they made an extremely important discovery. Christensen's car not only had a sunroof exactly like the car in the video, but the wheel rim of the front right tire also had a defect in exactly the same location as in the surveillance footage. These two distinctive features matching exactly couldn't just be a random coincidence. At this point, with clearer evidence, Christensen was officially locked in by police as the #1 suspect in the case. On June 15th, Christensen was invited to the police station for a more official and serious interrogation. In the closed interrogation room, police officers began asking a series of detailed questions. In the early phase of the interrogation, Christensen still appeared fairly calm, answering questions with a relatively natural and steady tone. However, when police officers began delving deeper into specific details, asking about exact travel routes, specific times, and presenting evidence from surveillance cameras, Christensen's demeanor quickly changed noticeably. He gradually fell silent, no longer offering explanations, just sitting quietly without speaking. His legs began trembling involuntarily, his complexion changed from the initial pallor to flushed red abnormally, and his breathing also became increasingly rapid and quick. Under the continuous pressure and increasingly sharp questions from the officers, Christensen finally couldn't maintain complete composure and began to speak. However, he still tried to deny and offered a story that sounded plausible. Christensen admitted that he had given a ride to an Asian-looking girl, but only with good intentions. According to his account, at that time he wanted to take a shortcut to get somewhere faster, and seeing the girl waiting for a bus, he offered her a ride. But when she got in the car, the other party appeared very nervous, so he decided to let her out right away. "I wouldn't keep someone I barely knew in my car when they clearly didn't want to be there, so I politely let her out," Christensen explained. He even added vague details to create confusion, saying that he wasn't even completely sure if that was the same person in the photo police were looking for, and even whether it happened on June 9th or another day, he couldn't remember clearly. This tense interrogation lasted a full hour filled with pressure. Despite countless signs, from body language, stress reactions, to contradictions in his statements, all indicating that Christensen was hiding something and had many suspicious points, At the end of the interrogation session, police made a decision that surprised many. They released Christensen to go home. Why make such a decision when the suspect had nearly revealed obvious abnormalities? Actually, this was a carefully calculated investigative tactic. At the very moment Christensen was being interrogated at the police station, another investigation team had been simultaneously deployed to Christensen's apartment. They had brought professionally trained dogs to sniff out and search for any important clues that might still exist at the scene. And indeed, they discovered strange bloodstains on the floor, samples suspected to be human tissue. All these samples were carefully collected and sent to the forensic laboratory for detailed DNA testing and chemical analysis. After test results returned from the laboratory, everything would naturally become clear and the truth would be revealed. Therefore, during this waiting period for results, allowing Christensen temporary freedom, loosening his vigilance while secretly conducting 24/7 surveillance of all his activities was a wiser and more effective tactical choice than immediately arresting him without having solid enough evidence. During the waiting period for important test results from the laboratory, the investigation team approached someone who could help them access Christensen from the inside. That was Tara Bullis. His girlfriend Tara and Christensen had met several months earlier through an online dating website. In conversation with police, Tara frankly revealed that the relationship between her and Christensen was an open relationship, meaning both accepted that the other could have romantic or sexual relationships with other people. When informed that police were investigating Christensen in connection with a missing Chinese student's case, Tara appeared extremely surprised and shocked. However, with a sense of civic responsibility and moral conscience, she immediately expressed her willingness to cooperate and help police in any way possible. The investigators equipped Tara with 2 small and discreet recording devices, asking her to try to record every conversation when near Christensen, paying special attention to any details related to the case. That very evening, Tara began this dangerous mission. Meanwhile, the entire student community at the school remained in a state of extreme worry about Yingying's mysterious disappearance, spontaneously organizing numerous search and prayer activities. That day, there happened to be a large-scale prayer walk for Yingying, and in a deeply ironic and frightening way, Christensen himself proactively invited Tara to participate in this event. The two were intimately shoulder to shoulder amidst the crowd of people, sincerely praying for Yingying's safety. Notably and chillingly, Christensen displayed an extremely comfortable and relaxed attitude, showing no signs of worry or tension, even displaying an arrogant demeanor like a victor, and becoming increasingly bold and unguarded. Amidst a crowd running everywhere, spending time and effort searching for Yingying, he casually whispered to Tara words full of implications and terror. He said that no one here knew the real truth, and casually mentioned that she had resisted and fought very fiercely. "These people don't know anything," he told Tara. "Do you know? Do you know what really happened?" She fought back, resisted so hard, more fiercely than anyone I've ever... These words, with the recording device silently operating, were all captured in full. Over the following days, Tara recorded a total of 9 conversations, each more chilling than the last. Christensen admitted he had long intended to kidnap and assault a victim, even boasting as if he were a professional killer. He recounted to Tara the entire crime process in detail. He impersonated a police officer, lied that he would take Yingying to a certain location to trick her into the car. Then he drove her to his apartment and forcibly dragged her inside to carry out his plan. Christensen stated he strangled the victim for about 10 minutes. He described Yingying as having an extremely strong will to survive, resisting fiercely with extraordinary strength. He strangled her for 10 minutes. When he released his grip, she had stopped breathing. He even laughed when recounting how he dismembered the victim. Christensen stated he dismembered Yingying's body, placed it in 3 bags, and threw them in the dumpster near his apartment. Then he drove all over Champaign to scatter Yingying's remaining belongings, traveling over 100 miles, disposing of items randomly along the way. The dumpster where he disposed of the body was only 2 days away from being emptied and transported directly to the landfill. Christensen confidently declared that Yingying's body would never be found, and her family would have to leave America in despair. He even brazenly compared himself to notorious serial killer Ted Bundy, boasting to Tara, "Watching everyone scrambling around unable to find Yingying, I realized I'm actually pretty good at this." Christensen said being good at that sounded really weird, but it was the truth. More terrifyingly, he also claimed Yingying was his 13th victim. Christensen sent Tara 4 chilling text messages. "I did it. She's number 13. She's gone forever." Although Yingying remained on the missing persons list, law enforcement had clearly determined this was a murder case. On June 30th, Christensen's birthday, police officially arrested him. Initial test results confirmed that the blood and DNA found in his apartment belonged to Yingying. Police also seized his computer and phone, discovering that on a forum about kidnapping and abuse, Christensen had posted about wanting to push limits and experience everything. He had also viewed numerous posts about kidnapping and downloaded a research paper on human decomposition. His phone and computer contained many horrific images of women. Additionally, student Emily, who had been lured earlier, immediately recognized Christensen. The investigation also revealed that several months before the crime occurred, Christensen had participated in psychological counseling. There, he voluntarily admitted to using illegal substances, frequently drinking excessively, and even having thoughts of harming others. Ultimately, Yingying became a victim in this tragedy. After committing the crime, Christensen cleaned his apartment extremely thoroughly and meticulously. Supermarket surveillance captured him buying large quantities of cleaning supplies, including drain-clearing chemicals. Yingying's body has still not been found to this day. In prison, Christensen showed no remorse whatsoever. He even used Yingying's body as a bargaining chip, declaring that if he were retried, he would be willing to reveal the location of the remains. But prosecutors understood clearly, with someone like Christensen, his words had no value. The Zhang family was now plunged into infinite pain. The daughter they had always been so proud of had died under such tragic circumstances, and even her body could not be brought back to their homeland. At an emotional press conference, boyfriend Hao Xiaolin couldn't hold back tears as he choked up, declaring, "We will never give up searching for her, never. I promise to protect her, to always be with her wherever she is. There was one time before when I couldn't protect her, but I swear I will absolutely never let that happen a second time. I will bring her home." Time passed in pain and long, drawn-out waiting. It wasn't until 2 years later, in June 2019, that the case of Yingying's disappearance and murder was finally brought to trial in court. The elderly father and grieving boyfriend were both present at the trial, sitting in the section reserved for victims' families with eyes full of hatred and hope for justice. Christensen was charged with the serious crime of kidnapping resulting in death, along with 2 counts of making false statements and providing false information to the FBI. However, with an arrogant and cold attitude, he expressed that he did not plead guilty to any of the charges brought against him. Although the state of Illinois had officially abolished the death penalty since 2011, due to the particularly serious nature of the case, Christensen still faced the possibility of the death penalty under U.S. federal law. After more than a month of proceedings with dozens of tense trial sessions, on July 18, 2019, the court delivered its final verdict. Christensen was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole and had his driver's license permanently revoked, something almost meaningless when he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. When hearing the verdict results, instead of showing remorse or fear, Christensen displayed absolutely no sign of repentance for his crimes. He even bowed his head and flashed a brief smile on his lips, then turned around and gently hugged his defense attorney as if he had just won some kind of victory. This inhumane action caused the Zhang family present in the courtroom to completely lose emotional control. Father Zhang immediately collapsed in his seat, both hands clutching his chest, sobbing to the point of nearly fainting, requiring others to help him up. In the statement read immediately afterward, the father, in a voice choked with emotion, said, "As grieving parents, we respect and accept the court's verdict. But please understand that, even with only the faintest glimmer of hope remaining, we still desperately plead, beg the perpetrator to have some conscience and reveal the exact location where our daughter's body rests, so we can bring her back to her homeland. Regarding the fate of Yingying's body, this remains an unanswered pain and question to this very day. Immediately after the case was cracked, police officers repeatedly expanded the search scope on a large scale, meticulously checking the dense forests around where Christensen lived, abandoned factories, and empty lots, but consistently couldn't find any clues about the body. According to the recorded confession, after murdering Yingying, Christensen disposed of the body by throwing it in an ordinary dumpster outside his apartment. And the very next day, according to the regular garbage collection schedule, the body was picked up by garbage trucks and transported to the city's large-scale waste landfill. By the time police cracked the case and learned this truth, Yingying's body had undergone at least 2 rounds of compaction processing, along with tons of other waste at the landfill. Excavating and searching in such a massive garbage landfill would require cleaning and sifting through dozens, even hundreds of tons of decomposed waste, making the work nearly impossible from both a technical and manpower perspective. To this very day, FBI agents directly responsible for this case have publicly stated in interviews that, as time continues to pass, preserving biological evidence becomes increasingly difficult, and the difficulty of search operations continues to increase exponentially. The possibility of recovering Yingying's body to return her to her family has become extremely slim, almost non-existent. The tragic passing of Zhang Yingying has left a wound that will never heal in the hearts of her family, friends, and the entire international community. She was an outstanding young woman who had overcome so many difficulties from poverty to rise as a promising scholar. She should have had an entire brilliant future ahead of her. But all those beautiful dreams were cruelly extinguished in just one day by the savage actions of an evil monster in human form. And that is today's case. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.